Okay, so we're going to start here with our Photoshop document. We have our layers window open here. We have one layer that has a house on it and one layer that just has this paper texture. So the first thing that we need to do, we're going to open up our timeline. So we're going to go to Window and choose Timeline. And this opens up, and then we create a video timeline. And then we have to come over here to this um, menu item here. And we're going to choose Convert Frames, Convert to Frame Animation. So now we have our timeline down here. We have one frame selected for 5 seconds. Well, let's go ahead and change that to about 0.2 seconds. So what I'm going to show you guys is how to use the type tool to create kind of an animated type. So this house and the paper layer, those layers are going to stay pretty consistent. And we're going to create some type to trace. So we're going to choose the type tool, which is in your toolbar, it's the T. And we're just going to use the regular type tool. And we're going to click somewhere on our document. And for this image, we're just going to type out "stay strong" as part of our message. And then let's click it again. Stay home. And then you can use the Move tool to kind of arrange your type. So you see, as we've used the type tool, it automatically has put both of these type pieces on their own layer. And you can tell which ones they are. You can turn them on, you can turn them off. You can also change the size of them, change the font, change the color. And to do that, you again go back to your type tool, select your type by clicking and dragging, and then sizes are up here. You can enter in your own size if you don't like the default settings. Let's make ours a little bit larger. Just click and drag, change that to 90, hit return. If you want to change the font, you can just choose a font from this drop-down menu. If you don't like the fonts that you have as your default fonts, go to Google Fonts. Lots of free fonts that you can download and install. And then let's say we want to center this. If you move it, it'll kind of snap to the center, or you can select all. And if you look up here, this icon right here will center your font within your selection. So we've selected all. If you want to right align it, use that icon. I'm sorry, left align or right align, center. Likewise, you can align your font to the top, the bottom, or you can center it vertically that way. So these these fonts that we've typed, these are what we're going to use to trace our font. So I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to use that layer to trace Stay Strong. So I'm going to choose my brush tool, and I'm going to make my fonts black. And then you can choose a different brush if you like, or a different size up here. I'm going to leave it at 6. Okay, and then I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So this is your zoom tool, the one that looks like a magnifying glass. So let's zoom in a little bit. And as you're zoomed in, if you press the space bar, you can use that little hand to kind of push your canvas around. So let's double check that I'm on this new layer, and we'll label that handwritten copy. And then I'm going to give it a number 1 because we're going to make a couple of different handwritten copies. So go back here, choose the brush. You can also choose the pencil tool if you like, but I'm going to choose the brush tool for this. And then I'm just going to trace this font. And you can make it as loose or as neat as you want. All right. So you can see what that looks like. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do this a couple of different times so that the copy kind of wiggles a little bit. It sort of animates. So that's going to be one frame, and then we're just going to make a new layer, and we're going to call it handwritten copy 2, and then we're just going to go through and do the same thing again. And so since you're doing it by hand, there'll be a little bit of variation each time. Space bar to move your canvas around. Okay. And then we're going to do it one more time. You can do it 3 or 4 or 5 times depending on how much variation you want in it, but we're going to do it 3 just to give the idea of how this looks. So again, it doesn't have to be perfect each time. The more sort of like variation you get in it, the more it will kind of vibrate. And you can kind of play around with it to see what weight you want on your brush, whether you want, I'm just outlining it, but you can make it solid if you want, if that's a look that you like better. It's up to you. I would just experiment around with it a little bit. Okay, so now we have 3 different versions of our top line, and what we're going to do is we're just going to create some different frames here. So I'm going to create a new frame, and then for each frame we're going to have a different different version of the copy. So here's handwritten copy 1 on frame 1. Frame 2, put handwritten copy 2. Frame 3, we'll do 3. And then what you can do is you can kind of select all 3 and just copy those so that when you play it, it'll kind of just repeat. And so that's how you get that kind of animated font that we saw in so many of the GIFs. And then you would go ahead and do that with both of your lines to get that animated type effect. All right. That is